Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 161 of the Civil Gore podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And we have I think we might really have a quick show tonight. So, for once, we
always
say that. We always say that, but we really don't have much of a first chop because we're kind of recording weird this week. We're kind of recording twice in 1 week because we were a little late with our last recording and the dismemberment was so giant. So, yeah. So basically, that's it. We'll join us next week on Civil Gore when we get. No, just kidding. We do have content. We do have a movie and have an interview. It's just Tim and I aren't going to be talking a lot of.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird week. We're trying to get caught up because we've had like this string of wonderful interviews, which is a good problem to have. Don't get me wrong, but we've had like a stretch of 3 or 4 interviews in a row. I mean, we've still got interviews in the can that we're trying to get out, and we have ones that are already on the schedule still. So we're having to do some crazy scheduling stuff trying to get this stuff worked in. So yeah, this might be a little bit shorter episode, but we do have a fantastic interview coming up with writer-director David Fowler and star Ben Cotton of our featured movie tonight, Welcome to the Circle.
Yes. I said peace and blessings be with you, Tim. As when you see the movie, you'll realize how that's a line in it. Really for the first chop, we don't have much other than because I didn't even get to my Amityville project because like I said, we're both deep in the horror challenge. We're backed up a little with content here. I was actually, Julie and I were trying to binge through Hill House again, so I'd be ready for Bly Manor. So yeah, we've been pretty busy, but I do want to say though that's very exciting is that I don't know about, I know Tim, you haven't got the shipment yet, but you ordered from Amazon, but I ordered direct from Shout Factory. My Friday the 13th is on its way. And as we speak now, it'll be arriving tomorrow, so I'm very excited. So hopefully, once I get that, we'll have some I'll have some unboxing pics and stuff, and Tim will do his when he gets his. So we'll we got. Other than that, it's really not. I don't know. Do you have anything else for the first job? I feel like we're
no, not really. My set is supposed to be here the 15th on the release date, which is fine. I'm fine with that. The only thing I really had was going through the horror movie challenge. I watched The Island of Dr. Moreau today. And wow, that's man. I knew that movie was legendary for the troubled production that it had. And that it was, if you guys don't know, and I posted this on Facebook, but during that production, there's a whole documentary on this movie and what happened. But directed by Richard Stanley, you had Marlon Brando pretty much go crazy on set. His daughter committed suicide, and he ended up isolating himself on an island in the middle of the movie and refused
I don't think I realized that.
Yeah, and refused to learn his lines. You had Val Kilmer got divorced during the movie and was having anger management issues. Bruce Willis was filing for divorce. He was originally supposed to be Val Kilmer's role, so he dropped out right before. They had another actor quit over script disagreements. They had hurricanes. They had bad weather. The budget was incredibly overblown from what it was supposed to be. And that's just the behind-the-scenes stuff. And then when you actually watch the movie, which is just one absurd scene after the other. It was an adventure. I bought this thing for $5 because Fandango had it for $5, and I was like, I'm gonna have to rent it anyway for like at least $4. So I might as well just buy it and own it. And it's a doozy, man. It's something to watch.
That almost sounded a little bit like our last fall. Remember when you had the hurricane and we lost a few weeks of recording, and and then we were over budget on Blu-rays and whatnot, and
yeah. So it was interesting, but I got 5 challenges knocked out with that movie. So
nice.
There's a cheat if you guys want 5 challenges knocked out, but I'm not going to tell you which ones they were. But that was fun. So I'm having a really good time with the horror movie challenge, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I need another couple of binges here because I have been off the last 2 days, but I'm still like on schedule. The same amount of days this started, I'm on exactly how many movies I am. But what I do is I try and like sometimes during the week I'll watch a few, but then on the weekend I'll do a little mini marathon. It's just easier on the weekends. Yeah, which is why we kind of made that rule for the challenge because we know, look, people work, they're tired. much is going on in the world right now to like have to like kind of assign yourself a movie every single day like that. Sometimes it's just easier to binge through, like kind of Cody did. What you watch, like 20 in the first day?
Yeah. Well, plus I don't want to. I want this to be fun. I don't want it to be work.
Right.
And I felt like in the past when I've done these challenges and it was strictly one a day, that by the end of the month I was getting really burned out on it, and it was kind of resenting having to sit down and watch something. And I never want that to be the case. I want this to be a lot of fun. So the schedule's up to you guys. You know, if you want to watch all 30 in the first week, that's fine by me. You know, that's my personal plan is to finish the horror challenge early and watch more than 31.
Yeah, I have actually. I'll talk to you this on off air, but I meant to tell you, reminding me of something. There's might be a crazy thing I might be planning for Halloween weekend here that I will share with the show once if I can finalize it. So we'll talk about that on air. But yeah, I too want to finish it up like a couple days early because I want my Halloween to watch my standards on that day. Yeah, like my trick or treat original Halloween. I have a couple of movies I always like to watch on Halloween, and with it being Saturday and we can, it's like so many hours you can dedicate to it. I want to like be able to be finished and be able to be free to watch my classics.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's get into our movie, Welcome to the Circle. And Brian, like we did with the last episode, I think we're going to talk about the movie first and then go into the interview.
Good idea. Good. I like that way, and for some of these movies, it works better.
Well, I think it works better, especially if we're not going to go into any spoilers, which we're not on this one.
And I feel bad. I have to say, we should start this, it's been funny because I feel like people can be like, why are they even reviewing things? They don't tell us anything. But it's hard to, especially with Tim and I, when we get so excited about horror, we want to talk about details. So it's kind of hard when it's the one drawback to getting the screeners sometimes, or just doing a review of the movie early, because you don't, we like everyone love to discovering the new movies, and we don't want to take that away from anybody. So that's why we're kind of intentionally vague with some of the things, but I think in the end it'll be better, because then we try and like more whet your appetite for it and then watch it, for the newer movies. I think that's we've kind of stuck through that formula forever, really. Like older movies, we just spoil the hell out of it because if you haven't seen it by then. But this one, I have to tell you, this one we could probably lay out, the plot right for you, and it still would be impressive because it's one of those mind-bending movies that kind of play with your head. And we'll get into it a little bit, but we'll start with our usual details of it, and then we'll go in.
Yeah, so this one was released this year. It was directed by David Fowler, starring Matthew McCall as Greg, Taylor Diane Robinson as Samantha, Ben Cotton as Grady, Cindy Busby as Rebecca, Hilary Jardine as Gabriella, Andrea Brooks as Sky, Matt Bellafleur as James, Heather Dorkson as Lotus Cloud, Spencer Drever as Young Grady, Jordana Largy as Tina, Michael J. Rogers as Matthew, and Christian Tessier as Michael. Sorry if I got any of those names wrong, but we're kind of known for that. So.
Yeah, it cracked me up. I couldn't wait till you said Lotus Cloud, just because I wanted to hear how if you could say it through. It's kind of funny.
So, a random bear attack during a family camping trip leaves Greg, father, and Samantha, daughter, trapped by a demon-worshipping cult known as the Circle. Unbeknownst to all is that there's an infiltrator in the cult's ranks. She is in communication with a former member on the outside named Grady. Grady's plan is to lead a small group of rescuers into the heart of the Circle, but will he get there in time to save Greg, Samantha, and others from the demon known as Percy Stevens? Yeah. So this is a very interesting movie, and Brian, as you know, I love cult stuff.
Yeah.
I even say it in the interview. I love cult things. I just finished watching The Vow on HBO, which was about the Nexium cult that the girl from Smallville was in.
Yeah, I need to watch all of it because actually I met Bonnie Peace, or P.S. I'm not sure how to say her name, but she was the one that played, in Attack of the Clones. She played, and Revenge of the Sith, she played Aunt Beru. My friend Mark and I got to meet her at a chiller, and she's actually, this is, I assume, was before this. But because I know she mentions the convention circuit during one of the episodes. I did see one episode that Julie was watching. She got really into it. And I remember we were talking to her, and she was as sweet as can be. So nice and everything. And so I'm glad she got out of it, I guess. She didn't get all the way in, because she was a really nice person. And, like, I mean, not that like, okay, I don't mean to say like, oh, cult people are mean. The whole point of the cult is they can they prey on people who are vulnerable at some level. It doesn't mean they're bad people. I mean, I think, but I think
especially NXIVM, because NXIVM was really targeting people that were very smart, very charismatic, very beautiful people. So it was kind of an interesting cult in that way, because it was targeting people you normally wouldn't see a cult target.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made it so insidious, because people didn't think a cult would target that demographic. So
right. Yeah. And and it's like, I don't like obviously, of course, the people I don't like are the ones that like are willingly taking advantage of people. But you're right. And this one was more of an unusual one, because it's like you figure they were, I don't know. It's just they didn't fit the usual get sucked into a cult mode.
Yeah. But, so I've been watching that. I watched the Scientology stuff. There was another one on about that guru that made that village out in the West. I don't remember the name of it, but that was a good one too. So there's a lot of really good cult stuff on Netflix. But so when I saw that this was a cult movie, I was really excited, because I love that kind of stuff. And this one has an interesting. We'll talk about it in the interviews. You guys will see. It's got some really interesting twists and turns where it was. I expected it to go in one direction, and then it completely went another way, which I thought was really cool. And there's some vibes from other movies and television shows, which, Brian, you had your thoughts on what it reminded you of. Me personally, I felt a lot of Tourist Trap vibes.
Yes, definitely,
which is a very good thing, because I loved.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, I was gonna say that because of some of the visuals that you see in this.
Yeah, there's some visuals in here that are very Tourist Trappy, which are really fun, and I love that movie. So that's a high compliment. And Brian, you had some thoughts on some of the shows you thought it reminded you of.
Yeah, there's definitely. Because they're two of my favorite shows. A very heavy, like Lost and Twin Peaks vibe I got. There was a very David Lynchian quality to a lot of this thing, and Lost, of course, because of especially Lost season 2. I think more specifically season 2 on, when they kind of discover like the Dharma Initiative going on. I think that's kind of what I got from that, like when they're in the little village. And but yeah, this movie is hard to talk about if you haven't seen it. But like, again, it's one of those things where I could flat out like tell you exactly what happens, and it still, I don't think would prepare you for it, because like Tim said, there are a lot of twists and turns. There are a lot of confusing things that I watched it multiple times, and there's probably still a couple of questions that I would, that I probably need to watch through, see if I can catch, because I mean, the core of it, the core plot is kind of simple, like we said in the thing, in a little synopsis there. A father and a daughter are rescued from a bear attack, and now they're in this kind of like this cult. But like any kind of cult, it does not seem like a cult per se right away. But as things go on, it gets more and more like a little odd. But then it goes to a place, and this is the part where I don't want to go into too much details. It gets into a real like bizarro place. Like, it's not like just like, okay, we're gonna follow this person. Like, the whole Percy Stevens element to it is very unique, and I don't want to go into why that is, because I think that's one of the reveals of the movie, who or what he is.
Right.
So, but I do know it's funny. It's because it's like there's so many things. Like, I think I said this in the interview, or may have been. I hope I said it in the final edit of the interview. But I said, like, it's like this movie will kind of do for attractive women what Jaws did for the water, because like in the beginning, it's like the women are all like, these are like kind of like these little almost like seductive muses, so to speak, or something, and they're trying to, like, to the father, they're all kind of getting him into this false sense of security, and then you just see where it gets weirder and weirder and weirder, and you'll see what I mean. There's so many. Like, just go into it and think of those 3 movies and shows that Tim and I talked about: Twin Peaks, Lost, and Tourist Trap. And if you know all 3, you'll know exactly what we're talking about. But I think one of the strengths to this is, and I've seen some, some negative reviews to this, and everyone has, of course, has their own opinion to it. But I think a lot of people probably, not everyone likes this style. of movie that like, and Tim and I happen to, I like movies that I'm so constantly trying to figure out things from it. And this one is definitely works your mind constantly to try and make sure, and you can not pay attention in this movie. You can't look away for a second because you're going to miss something that literally you will be, you have to really be invested in this. But this movie does a good job of pulling you in because I think the characters are so fascinating and the performances are pretty good, especially Ben Cotton's. I mean, we talked to him on there, and you'll hear in the interview on how he got into that character, and his character kind of comes in at a point almost like this, like we say in the interview, I think too, like this halfway point of the movie almost, and it kind of shifts gears.
Yeah, I think that's where some of the negative reviews could have come from too, because it does not follow a traditional movie structure, and there's a lot of people out there that like their stuff very predictable, and they like it by the numbers, and when it doesn't do that, they get they get turned off by it. I tend to actually like movies that kind of subvert expectations. That's why I liked The Last Jedi, because it didn't do exactly what I thought it was going to do. So, but a lot of people hated that one because of that. So I kind of flip the other way. I kind of like it when they change things up like that, and I can see where some people would be turned off by that kind of oddball structure there.
Well, I think too is, and this could be a modern thing, and I'm guilty of it too myself sometimes. I mean, where I think now where people have their you have to really be invested in a movie, and I think people have trouble not investing themselves sometimes in it because there's a phone in your hand half the time. I mean, it's hard to get hard to keep focused just in general sometimes, especially now and what's going on in the world. But I will say it's like if you give yourself that break and look and just get invested in this movie, I think you're gonna. I think even the negative reviews, I wouldn't be surprised if they saw it again, and now knowing with that whole that this is a different type of movie, maybe they'll appreciate it more, because I thought it was. I mean, we said how much we liked it, and it really, I didn't know what to expect going in, and I came out pleasantly surprised. And I did watch, and like I said, I watched it a second time because I want to make sure I caught all the different nuances and the performances I liked in it. And I actually did find some new things in the second viewing that I didn't quite catch. It's funny, of course, Julie, she was she came in and out through while I was watching it the second time, and it's kind of funny because I'm like, wait a minute. I said, and I went back because I wanted to catch something again, and I'm like, oh, I said, isn't that cool how they kind of confuse you and they twist things around? And Julie goes, oh no, I got it. It's she lays it right out. I'm like, how did you get this? You just walked in. But yeah, I mean, the good thing is this movie is one of those movies I think that just I don't know, kind of keeps you on your toes, and I kind of like that. I like when a movie kind of is engaging constantly on some level to pull you in deeper into the narrative, and this one I think does that well.
Yeah, me too. So let's get right into our interview with writer-producer David Fowler and star of the movie Ben Cotton.
So earlier this year, we were sent some great films from Artsploitation. The latest one we were fortunate enough to receive was the mind-bending horror film Welcome to the Circle. With us tonight to discuss this fantastic film is the writer and director David Fowler and star Ben Cotton. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, dude.
Thanks very much.
Pleasure.
So, guys, I watched the film today, and I absolutely love cult stuff. That's my thing. I've been watching The Vow on HBO lately, and watching all kinds of good docs on cult things. So this was right up my alley. Cool. But before we get into the movie, I wanted to let our listeners know a little bit about you guys. Maybe talk about some of your past projects that they might know you from. I guess we'll start with David.
That people might know me from. I did a handful of Disney stuff, so that's pretty out there for everybody. Before that, I wasn't doing a lot of stuff that people know about, quote unquote. But yeah, these weird Disney Nature, that's the brand, and they're wildlife films. And I write the narration, the stuff that David Attenborough would say if we had David Attenborough.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I mean, how do you get it? I don't know. How do you even get into that? That's interesting.
I don't know. These weird things happen to people, right? Well, they do to me, where you just land in this absurd position one day interviewing for hey, would you like to write nature films for Disney? Okay.
Sure.
Sure. We'll try that. And they're amazing, man. We get really good performers. Like Natalie Portman did the dolphin one. Ed Helms did the penguin named Steve. You got to see that one.
Oh.
What about you, Ben?
I just looked on IMDb to see what I'm I don't know. I've been working my way through TV and independent films for a long time. I'm just looking on here. Like lately, it's been stuff like Limetown came out recently, which was a thing with Jessica Biel and Facebook, and there's Riverdale and The Good Doctor.
Oh, right. I did see that. Yeah.
Travelers, Man in the High Castle, all that kind of stuff.
Ben was in Mars. Was that Nat Geo?
Yeah, that was Nat Geo and Imagine, like Ron Howard and Brian Grazer, and went to space. I walked on Mars. So.
Very cool.
I actually got a message from one of my aunts because she saw it on social media that I was going to Mars, and she was like, "Are you actually going to Mars?"
Oh my God, we got to check that out.
Ben is a ridiculously good actor.
Oh, you.
No, I agree, especially in this film. This was really good. But we will definitely touch on that. But so the first question I have, this one's for David. Tim and I really enjoyed this film. I mean, like he said, he's into cult stuff. I love these type of films, just where they're constantly, kind of misleading you and kind of, almost in like there's almost this intentional kind of confusion to keep you on the edge, which I love. So what can you tell us about how you came up with this idea?
Well, I was given this task to, again, one of these weird things that lands on your lap. Could you please write and direct a horror film? Like right now.
Like right now.
So it's just this idea I've always kind of wanted to pursue. As a Canadian who moved down to LA, there's a lot of weird people down here in the canyons, and this is cult central. If you drive north from LA, Topanga, Malibu, up near Big Sur, it just gets weirder and weirder. And I've kind of had my nose in a few cult situations, and sort of weird retreats inside a spa. They call it spa, but it's like you hear the Eagles Hotel California as soon as you set foot in the place. And I've always just kind of been fascinated by and kind of despise the quote gurus who claim to know about the universe and have other suckers fall into their icky web, And I thought I could make that into a horror film.
And you have.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was like dirt cheap. It was a micro budget. They told me I had $0. So I just wrote the cheapest, most of, coolest kind of psychodrama. I call it a phantasmagorical film.
Yes. Nice.
That's how I came up with it. Yeah. Just being weirded out by these people down here.
What they say, a lot of horror comes from like an actual experience and amplified. So that's a great.
Well, I've been made to feel very uncomfortable in these situations. So I thought, what if I dialed that up to supernatural level?
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
So Ben, this one's for you. What kind of drew you to this role and this character?
I don't know. I mean, it just was one of those things where I read the page and I was like, you could kind of feel where the wink was. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that, you'd be like, oh, I don't know. There's something in the tone of it where, when I went to the audition, I was like, oh, I think I know what this is. But correct me if I'm wrong, David. Wasn't I reading for something else? And then you were like, no, that's Grady.
Oh, right. You were reading for kind of like not the head of the cult, but the guy who runs the daily business. What was his name? Michael? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But then, yeah. And then David was like, okay, well, what about Grady? And then I thought, well, that's just good, clean fun. So
yeah, there's this Grady character who's basically me, my half of my personality. And I thought Ben can play me.
Well, and what was the best part is I don't think I don't remember you ever saying that.
No.
But just in talking about it, there was a point where I consciously was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm just going to play David.
I didn't even realize it till after the film was made, and all my friends are looking at your performance going, that's you.
That's such a good compliment, because that's what I was trying to do. That's awesome.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. That's what I love when we get to talk about films that we like. We find out these little like tidbits like that. It makes it great when we watch it again the next time too, because now we know with this stuff. But
that is cool though, that because I had forgotten that, Ben. He came in to audition for this other part completely.
Yeah,
was more sort of a formal part, and he like within 2 seconds he was like, "Oh my God, he's got to play Grady." Yeah, it's cool when you get that mental. Check mark, the bing.
Yeah, no, I think that decision was the right one, because I thought you're great as Grady's character. So
right on, thank you.
So this one's again for David now. So there's, like I mentioned before, there's a lot of kind of weird imagery and intentional mysterious elements through the film. So you kind of mentioned where you got the idea from, but were there any specific inspiration that you used to create the environment and setting of the film? Because I know Tim and I discussed, we kind of said it was almost like, and this is coming from us, this is like an ultimate compliment. We kind of said it was a mix of if David Lynch directed an episode of Lost, throwing in a little bit of Tourist Trap in there.
David Lynch, that's what I would usually drop that name when I was trying to get people in the headspace for it. But I kind of, I think Charlie Kaufman is sort of half of what I draw from. He's a hero of mine. When he first came out with like being John Malkovich, I thought,
oh, right.
Thank God somebody's finally doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
And the other half is that sort of beautiful, slapsticky kind of Sam Raimi, Evil Dead. Have you ever seen Peter Jackson's Dead Alive?
Oh yeah. Love that one. Yeah.
That's like Sam Raimi's evil twin brother or something. And then like Dario Argento, I think. There's some names, have you? Yeah, that's the first film I ever saw that scared the life out of me. And then I saw it years later. It was terrible. Four Flies on Gray Velvet. Have you ever heard of it?
Yes.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen that one though, but
you should watch it.
I think.
Anyway, he's very surreal. It's all about surreal, for me.
Yeah, and that's what I love. I love when there's a movie that even after a couple of watches, I'm still asking myself questions for, because to me, that's the ultimate reason why to rewatch a movie. It was like, there's two. There's one if you really love it, and there's two if you like want to just keep finding out more and more about it. And that's what this one was for me. I watched it twice now, and at both times I'm like asking myself some more questions, different questions, which to me is always a sign of a really cool film that I like. So.
My dad watched it more than once, which I was astounded. It's like, I couldn't fathom my parents watching a second of it. my dad's like trying to find some meaning in there.
That's funny. I wonder how he'd react to it.
So Ben, this question's for you, and this is about the character of Grady, who's a really interesting guy. When we meet him, he's been through a lot, and so I was kind of wondering how you got into that headspace to portray this character that's been through so much.
Wake up and start talking.
Basically, yeah, wake up and start talking. I don't know. Like once I found this character was funny, because once I could feel like, it sounds corny to talk about the process that way, but once I could find sort of the voice, and that there was a certain tone that, like, we discussed it a little bit, and then it happened, and David lit up, and then I was like, okay, that's what it is. Once that happened, it was just a matter of sort of staying in that tone. The script played itself. You know what I mean?
It felt to me like you just relaxed right into it at one point.
Yeah.
Like on the second day, he didn't even have to try.
Like that was it. It's like, I think it was at the end of the first day, you and I were having a discussion about something, and it was just something about the way it was really cool, because it wasn't a line reading, like, so that's for actors, lots of times they're like, oh, that's a no-no. I personally don't care. You can give me line readings all day long if you want. But
Thank you.
A lot of people don't really like it. And so looking back, it was really cool, because how you got it across wasn't a line reading, but it was just There was something in the tone of the way that you were talking to me that gave me the answer. But once that tone was there, this was one of those ones where once the musical tone of what the voice was and the rhythm of Grady, the script just plays itself, you know.
This will also sound corny, but when Ben kind of found this groove, just naturally kind of sunk into the cockpit of this character. Well, this is how you drive it. Yeah. I didn't even know that character could be like that. And I was like, he was like my hero. On the second day, I'm just, I fucking love this Ben guy. Because the first day was Ben and Hillary in this just insane, intense arguing and yelling thing that it was really hard for anyone to get into a character in that when that's the first scene. Like running from a fire and screaming, like that kind of level of intensity.
Where we started.
It wasn't until the second day that he was allowed to actually be the normal guy.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by particularly horror movies because you have to do these extreme things, screaming and running and crying, and I mean it's a lot different than like a drama where you can kind of play it a little more subtle. So it's always interesting to me how you get into that headspace of all of a sudden having to be terrorized or in pain, or it's interesting.
Can I ask Ben a question? Because I never.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Ben, when did you realize that your character could be an asshole, and that's an effective way to play the character? Because you kind of were, right?
I never looked at it that way.
Really?
Not at all. Like, well,
the way you would talk to people was like so demeaning, you know. Like,
yeah, I guess I did realize that because I think his relationship or the way he perceives most of the other characters is that he's smarter than them. I thought, you know what I mean?
Asshole.
So there was a certain level of like kind of condescension there towards the others, I guess, you know.
That's true though. I was gonna say, but that's what I thought was so great about it. Yes, initially that's what an audience would look at. Like, boy, this guy is kind of like, he's really condescending. But as you grow on, just naturally, you get it, and you're like, rooting for him right away. Like pretty soon into this, I'm like, I just want to see him now. It's like, and you kind of come in like mid-film, and you just like take it over, and it's great.
Right on.
Can I ask you, Civil Gore fellows?
Yes.
Who would you identify as the protagonist if you had to pick one?
Wow. Tim and I are not usually being on the spot now. We're like
tables have turned.
Yeah.
Ben, who's the protagonist?
I don't know.
I just watched a thing this morning on who's the villain in The Karate Kid, and that blew my mind. So now I'm trying to think of this one. So,
well, I think some people would say Ben, and then I guess the other people would say Samantha, the girl.
Yeah, those are the two I was gonna say, because I think obviously you're once you get on board with Ben, you're kind of like you want him to succeed because he takes on this like almost like a reluctant hero thing, but it's not reluctant really at all. I don't think when you see what he's got a true motive why he's doing it. So
yeah,
that's cool how you mentioned the comes in the middle of the film. That was one of the most kind of enjoyable parts of writing. Like we had to my friend Kate helped me write the thing just so we could run around the room and spout out ideas and sounding board and stuff. And one of the coolest ideas was what if these people come in the middle of the film out of nowhere? It's like I love that.
Yeah, I really like that. That was cool.
Yeah, because it was like totally changed the like perspective now, because you're right now you're like really you're kind of like following this girl and her dad, and you're really fighting and wondering what happens, and all of a sudden like it almost like a switch turns on, and now you're like totally invested in like another character quick, but it doesn't feel awkward, which is what's cool.
That kind of sets you a bit on your heels, so that you're kind of, wait a minute, what we're doing, which lends itself to the whole tone and feeling, I guess. When you mentioned Lynch, like just the oddness of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, there's no on a budget this size, there's no producers, nobody to tell you can't do anything.
Yeah.
So perfect opportunity. Like that's why I love tiny budget things. Is you don't have to settle for what do they call it? Sort of committee. Creativity by committee.
Yeah.
It's just one or two people deciding what they want to do.
I think that's what, and Tim and I have always said this. That's why I think we love the as you said, micro budget films sometimes, because you really get like the what the person, well, what the director and writer in your case with this one, what you wanted, and it comes out, and you could see that like I kind of just I kind of think like I wonder what if this went through like the typical Hollywood process of touch. This would never come out this way, I don't think.
Yeah, but like.
Grady would have 2 guns, first of all, probably, so. But
interesting things in life are unpredictable, right? You never expect something to take a left turn, and that's often where horror lives, is down that left turn you never saw coming.
Yep.
Hey, did you guys ever see, I think it was William Friedkin's To Live and Die in L.A.?
Oh, wow.
I haven't seen that in years, but
the protagonist of that film dies right in the middle of the film, and it's a similar kind of a left turn.
Yep.
It's the only other one I can think of that goes like that.
Well, yeah. Whatever your intention on this one, whatever you did, it came out great. But so actually, it's funny. This next question actually it kind of answers itself in Ben's case, but so. Obviously you were the writer and the director, so you had kind of like, you had your vision and you could direct your vision. But we know Ben got it. But did you have any challenges conveying it to any of the other members of the cast, like trying to get them to where you wanted them to be?
Let's say there was 10 actors. Only, I think 8 actors just nailed it right out of the gate. The script is so weird, and the rehearsals were really thorough. It wasn't just somebody reading a line and going yes or no. We actually kind of rehearsed in the auditions.
Yeah.
So when they got on set, they knew what the deal was.
Yeah.
And I can't think of anybody who had a heart. There's one scene here and there where they're trying to find the anger or the magic, but everyone completely got their character.
And what the scenes were, and what it was that they were trying to play.
Yeah, because every character is such a caricature. Like they're all so surreal.
Yeah.
I always found I did some acting, and it's never any good. But the best I could be was when I was playing someone ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't be the normal guy having coffee with his girlfriend. It's like you're fired. But I can be the insane uncle who's casting a spell on the grandchildren or something.
I kind of want to see that movie, actually. That sounds
But the characters in this film are all kind of like pushed over to that wacky side. So I think it's easier for characters to grab onto or for actors to grab onto something that unusual. Would you agree, Ben?
I certainly would, because it's just like anything. Like anytime we talk about our parents or like our favorite uncle or something like that, the moment you start talking about them, you put on their voice. You know what I mean? And it's just that. It's like the more you can read a character on the page, the more it lights up that bulb in your familiar circle. There's somebody when the script is good, suddenly the bulb goes off and goes, oh, that's like my uncle's buddy that I met one time at a picnic. You're like, it's him. And then, again, maybe I'm learning about my own process here today, because I keep coming back to the voice. Once you find that thing, it just kind of rolls.
I would say, thinking a little harder on that Samantha, who is Taylor Diane Robinson, is the actress.
Yeah.
Because she was probably the least experienced of all the actors. She'd only done a couple of things in some theater, children's theater. That was the most interesting, trying to kind of, because children's brains are just like, give me information.
Yeah.
All the adults, I didn't really have to do much, but that was so fun trying to direct Taylor to do weird stuff with Ben. And
it was great.
Okay, you have to be the adult in this scene, Taylor. and pretend all the adults are children, and you're the, you know.
Yeah, actually, that was a great dynamic, I have to say, with Grady's character and Samantha's character when they kind of got when they got into like team up mode, you know, and they did. And then when I think my favorite line is when you just, and not really a spoiler because unless you've seen the movie, it's not out of context. But I love when you just like you kind of like say like, all right, be crafty. Or something you said, like, or go be crafty. That just cracks me up. Like I found myself laughing out loud at a lot of Grady lines because they're just so like it's just sort of perfectly timed at the scene. You know, there's this weird tension, and you just deliver this dry line that's just brilliant in my opinion. But
I can't believe how lucky we got with the quality of actors. I mean, you know, no one can see this, but I still am just astounded that you know go up to Little Vancouver. It's got its little actor community, and I don't know, maybe every actor up there is amazing, but all those and all the women were so attractive and amazing. You know, it was incredible. And Ben, of course, the most attractive of all.
Oh, you.
Yeah, but see, and then the women are creepy, so it's like you kind of now made like what attractive women kind of did to what Jaws did to the water now, you know, because now
that was one of the major inspirations going back to where I got the idea. Is one evening I was at some quote party up in the hill in Malibu, and it was, you know, after a half hour, I realized, okay, this is a cult gathering. And I went off to the bathroom, and we were waiting in line for the porta potty. And of course, this stunningly beautiful young blonde woman starts talking to me and luring me into stuff and come and see my friends. And that's where a lot of that comes from. Like that first scene when you know, behind the gauze in the morning, early in the film.
The selfies, like the little, like...
Yeah, those women. It's, that comes from experience.
Yeah.
And having grown up in the 70s.
Yeah. It's definitely got that vibe, yeah.
So we always like to give the filmmakers a chance to kind of sell their film and kind of tell our listeners why they should watch this film and kind of what makes it unique. So do you guys have any thoughts on, you know, kind of what makes this film special or what you were trying to get across?
God. I'll go first because Ben doesn't want to go first.
I mean...
Oh, he's going to go first.
No, it's all you.
It's funny. Every time we ask this question, it's like deer in the headlights. You know?
Of course it is.
Well, Ben's used to coming in the middle. He's got to come in the middle. That's why.
Oh, right. So
that's my game. That's my jam.
Interrupt me in the middle of my thing, and then that'll go.
Okay.
I can't even remember the question.
Sell your film.
I quite honestly was trying to either kind of warn people or share with people the dangers of groupthink and following people who write flaky new age books claiming to know that the color scheme of the universe is part of your central flame dragon, like blah, blah, blah. Like, this is how bad it can get, you know?
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Okay, that's number one. And number two, hey, audience, people who haven't seen it, it's fucking amazing what you can do with $300,000.
That's a good selling point.
That's a good answer.
And by the way, I Central Flame Dragon, maybe if I ever become in a band, that might be the name. I'm just going to apologize in advance for stealing that. So.
Or just Flame Dragon.
Yeah, it could be Flame Dragon. So Ben, you have do you want to add to it or?
I mean, I think that's pretty good. I just love this film. I think there's like this is an unusual film in a way that really makes me grin. I love this film. So, and like David said, like $300,000. This is, you know.
I will add something because Ben is just petering out here.
It's nap time, so you know. Go on.
It's not a, you know, horror films often have a type, right, or a formula, jump scares and etc. This is definitely one of those films that doesn't follow the normal rules.
Yeah.
And I think the quality of the acting is sort of takes it to a different place than other films that can have great actors, but they're always forced to do this formula.
Right.
So they all kind of, that actor did the same thing in 12 films that were like, The Ring or something. Which is why this one's kind of Lynchian, like you first said. Yeah, it's has its own rules.
I like that.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that's great. So I guess to finish up, I guess just if you want to both let our listeners know where they can find out about this film, more about this film, and about your upcoming projects. Like if you have any websites or social media you want to share.
Well, Welcome to the Circle hasn't come out at all yet. It's still behind closed doors, but there's a trailer on IMDb, Welcome to the Circle. And that's the only thing that's out there, I think. I think everyone's waiting for theaters to open up in Canada. Have they opened up yet, Ben?
You know what? I should know that, but I'm not sure. I think you can. There's showing movies with a limit of like 30 people in the audience, kind of thing. I know we've got films coming up, like the Vancouver Film Festival is coming up, and I know there are going to be some physical screenings.
Because I know the producer Michael Kazin is determined to have a theatrical release before it gets on any streaming, and I support him in that. He's earned it. He wants it,
Yeah.
He's amazing, by the way, Michael Kazin.
Yeah, he is.
And what do I have coming up? I'm stalled out a bit actually in coronavirus times. I was there's some Disney stuff in the work. There's always more Disney films coming out, but everyone had to freeze filming. So
yeah. What about you, Ben?
For stuff that's coming up. I've got a film coming up in the Vancouver Film Festival called Fucking Idiots, which I highly recommend. I hope that you can see. This is another odd, quirky film that I'm going to enjoy. Written by a guy called Chris Elgstrand that I've made a few films with, so a lot of fun there. And then, I don't know, I'm working on a TV show called Resident Alien.
Oh, okay.
Which I'm very excited about. I think it's going to be very funny. And then just wrapped up on a thing called The Astronauts, which is a thing for Nickelodeon and Imagine.
Oh, okay.
This the second astronaut you've played?
I've played a few, actually. I spend a lot of time in space.
Oh my God.
Ben's got this other great film coming out soon called Welcome to the Circle.
I heard about. That one I've heard
Yes,
about. Yeah.
That's a wonderful film. We should talk about that one.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on, and we'll make sure we of course promote this one every time we get some news on it. We'll make sure we share it with all our on social media and stuff. And of course, if you guys have any other projects you guys want to talk about, you just give us an email, let us know you want to come back on again, and we're more than happy to help you promote whatever you guys got working on.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Hey, you guys have been really great hosts. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, David, I'm going to check out some of those nature docs because I'm sure my kids would really.
Oh, they'll love them. Yeah.
Yeah, are they on Disney Plus at all? Or? Are they on Disney Plus, some of them?
I think all of them are, yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Awesome.
Cool. The brand is Disney Nature, and just start banging them off. There's a dolphin one, a penguin one, an elephant one, a monkey one. They're all really good.
That's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. This was definitely a real treat for us, and it's always great to talk to filmmakers behind movies that we love. So
right on.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much for having us.
Okay, Brian. So that was a really good interview. I enjoyed talking to both of those guys, and that interview had some really good insight into the thought process from Ben on how kind of his acting process, which I thought was really fun to hear, and then the writing process.
Yeah.
Of David. So it's always good to hear these behind the scenes like tidbits. I'm just fascinated by, as a movie fan, I'm fascinated by how movies are made. And to me, that's as entertaining as the movie itself sometimes. And that's why I love director's commentaries. I mean, some people could care less about that. It was like, well, just give me the movie. You know, I don't care about the stuff behind the scenes. But I'm equally fascinated by both sides, behind the camera and in front of the camera.
Yes, yeah, and I especially when it's a movie that's like this type of movie where there's a lot of cool like things in it. You know, it's great to talk about with. And I'm glad we got both like a director, so someone from the behind the scenes and someone involved in as the actor. So it's kind of I like that we got like two sides, two viewpoints of it too, which is pretty cool. Yeah,
that was a lot of fun. All right, so let's get to our beer pairing. I can't wait to hear what you came up with for this one, Brian.
Yeah, this one was tough because I did my usual form and searching things, and a movie like this is hard to come at.
I think there's not a lot of cult beers out there.
No, well, there's Cult 45, but no, sorry, I couldn't resist throwing that pun in there. But yeah, no, there was. It's funny every time I search beer, like cult beer or beer cult, I would get these like literally things like, oh, the cult beers you need to try in 2020, so. But I looked around, so then I started thinking, well, okay, let me go back to the. So actually, I did something I rarely ever do, and this was obviously I did not have time to go through the entire movie again before to capture this beer pairing. So what I did is I watched the trailer to see if I could think of something, and then it hit me. I'm like, well, you know what? They kind of get lost in the woods here, so I started searching woods and stuff like that, and I found a beer called Lost in the Woods. Actually, by the Julian Beer Company out of San Diego, California. It's a 7.3% ABV, and listen to the description of it. It might match with this movie pretty well. It says, deep forest nectar will soothe even the darkest of souls. Rich, creamy, and slightly sweet. So I think that might match this movie.
I like that. Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah, and just so you know, I spelled forest correctly. If you get that joke, hopefully you'll get that. Everyone will get that joke. What I meant that has something to do with someone who likes to tweet a lot these days for the last 3.5 years. But we'll that's
moving right along.
Moving right along.
So our triple threat last week. Now, as we're recording this, we haven't had time to get a lot of answers in. So I don't know if anybody got this one yet or not.
Yeah, nobody's answered yet. But it literally we're recording the day the last episode released.
Yeah.
So we apologize. We'll give you credit the net following episode.
All right. So we were looking for an actor or actress. Clue number 1: I started my career on, at the time, a very popular musical kids show. That show was Kids Incorporated, which I used to love. I used to watch that show all the time. And it starred a very young Jennifer Love Hewitt, which was our answer. Clue number 2, I was sometimes credited with my middle name as my first. So in roles such as the comedies Munchie and Little Miss Millions, Jennifer was listed as Love Hewitt, dropping the Jennifer.
Yes.
And clue number 3, I starred in the first 2 movies of a popular horror franchise, yet I bowed out for the last installment. I thought this was a good clue because it kind of keyed you in that it was a 3-movie horror franchise.
Yeah,
there's not that many of those out there either. So Jennifer starred as Julie James in I Know What You Did Last Summer and its first sequel, but did not appear in the 3rd film of the franchise, I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yes.
That was a pretty good one. Now, I'm particularly excited this week because Brian was in a crunch. He didn't have his triple threat ready, and so I made one up on the fly.
Yeah, he did, and Tim did a good job, too.
This is the first ever triple threat that I've invented, and I think it's pretty good. I think you have to really listen to the wording and everything of these clues, though, to get it.
Yeah, no, I think you did a really good one. I think you got a little more sinister even than I do sometimes.
Yeah, this one could be challenging. I don't know. Yeah. I want to see.
I tell you one thing, I know where people are going to go with it first, and they're going to be wrong. I'll just say that. But
oh, that's good. That's good. A little misdirection.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so we are looking for another actor or actress. Clue number 1. While not known for horror movies, I once played a werewolf, funnily enough. Clue number 2. My career started out in little television roles. No one could accuse me of being born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Clue number 3. One of my more recent roles was in a highly acclaimed adaptation from The King of Horror. Who am I?
Yes, that is a good one because I tell you, like Tim did a good job. He's got you misdirecting left and right. I'll tell you with this. I mean, but it's funny. This is what Tim. I have to say, I have to compliment you for doing your first one on the fly like that. you've managed to actually have it cultivated to where, like, if you actually look at all 3 clues, you should be able to get it. But most people, they start off with one clue, the trait, and this is just human nature. You're going to start off with that one clue and then you have someone in your mind based off the first clue, and then without thinking, sometimes you just try and force that second and third clue into it without really reading them all. And I think, like, if you would have given this to me, I probably would have got it, just because my brain works with all these weird trivia pieces. But I think the average person, if they read it, read it. Since we were so good at posting this, I need to start reposting those.
We definitely probably need to post this one.
Yeah, we need to start doing that again. If you do that, if you get all 3 clues in front of you, I think it can be figured out. But we'll see what happens. I like it though. Good job, Tim.
Thank you. All right, so our fan topic food question of the week, and this was a good one. I like this one. Yeah. This is another from David McHugh, Horror Mailman. Again, these are chosen at random, but David was kind enough to send us just a slew of fantastic questions, so his are coming up with more frequency, but we will get to all of them eventually.
Yes.
Fan topic food. Are your wives okay with your horror obsession? So I'll let you go first, Brian.
Okay, yeah. So here's the thing. It's funny. There's multifaceted answer to this here, because what it is so, of course, Julie is more than fine with my horror obsession in terms of the grand scope of it, because she likes horror movies too. She loves ghost shows. I told you she loves the Dead Files. We watched through Haunting of Hill House. We watch a ton of those Travel Channel shows. So yes, and she's happy that we do this podcast. She had a blast at Halloween Horror Night. She loves going to the haunts. So yes, she, as a quick answer, yes. However, I think she wishes that my collection, my love of horror, did not span into every one of my collections. Hence, even though she created essentially the monolith, I'm sure she wishes it stayed at its size rather than grow. And of course now it's like, of course I'll buy horror action figures, and now which led her to buy me the my big display case to put my Jason figures in, because they kept falling down. And then also, of course, now thanks to Tim, I started buying like horror board games. So there's one more collection that is now developing because of my love of horror. So yeah, and then but overall, I think the easy answer is yes, of course. Yes, she is okay with my love of horror. She is very supportive in every way. I mean, whatever my passions may be at the time. It just, I think she just wishes the collection didn't grow so much from it.
Yeah, I will have to say Olivia is a saint. She loves horror movies as well. We watched horror movies even back when we were dating. She loved going to horror movies. She's not into the blood and guts type stuff, but she loves she'll watch anything horror, but she prefers stuff more like ghost type stuff, haunting type stuff. She loves American Horror Story. She loved Haunting of Hill House. She likes all that kind of the horror TV. She's very much into, usually because that's not really super gory. So yeah, she's always loved horror movies and has no problem with me watching horror movies. She's very protective of the kids around it. She doesn't want the kids watching any of it, which is understandable. I don't let them watch anything, with a lot of cussing or violence or sex or anything, obviously, because they're too young. But she knows that I'm pretty good about that. And my collections are not really out of hand. I have what I refer to as my mini lith, which is a much smaller Blu-ray collection. So she's fine with that. And I think she started getting a little disturbed when back in our old house, when I had 2 shelves full of horror memorabilia stuff. She was kind of getting a little edgy about that, but I've since the move, I've kind of packed all that stuff away and gotten rid of a lot of it as well. So she understands that I'm trying to kind of cut back on that anyway. But yeah, she's a saint, especially with the podcast, because this is a lot of time investment. Not only are we recording for an hour and a half, 2 hours once a week, which is that's time away from family, time away from her, time away from the kids, And then you have the editing on top of that. Although the editing I tend to do in hours where I wouldn't be missed. I'm not taking myself away just to do editing.
What hour is that where you're not missed, Tim? We always miss you. What are you talking about?
But it is, and then there's nights or there's weeks where we'll have interviews, and I gotta be on the computer at 5:00 or to do this interview. And she never complains about that. She's always very understanding. She's very proud of what the podcast has become. The number of guests we've been able to get on the show, which she thinks is amazing. So, she's nothing but supportive. Our wives are complete saints to put up with us. I mean, complete saints. I pinch myself every day wondering how in the world she still puts up with me after 18 years. But she does. And, we love our wives for their understanding and their encouragement of our hobby.
Yeah, and we need to get them on to do that episode. We've been promising that for 4 years.
We really do. I mean, Olivia is so bashful about, she doesn't like to hear her voice. She doesn't want to get on the microphone, but I think I could talk her into it.
Yeah, well, if she does it with Julie, if they kind of, lead the episode, I think, they do their own kind of, episode type of deal. I think that maybe she'll feel more comfortable, with
we could do it over Zoom, and that way they can see each other. And
right,
I think that would be better.
You're right. I forgot. I forgot how Zoom has changed everything. I mean, in our podcast, we switched from doing interviews on Skype to interviews on Zoom, and I have to say it has made such a difference. I think. Because I think seeing the person on there and just kind of interacting back and forth, it's more of a conversation. I think it seems to make the interviews a lot easier. I remember I think our first one was when we had Lauren Compton on, right? That was our first one because it was right when the whole I think it was right when the quarantine started, and so Zoom was becoming a thing. Remember? And we said, so how about we, and everyone was doing Zoom, and I watched Julie doing Zoom at work all the time. And I think I said to Tim, I said, maybe we should try this Zoom. And you had it. I think you had your work version or something. And then then I ended up buying the official Civil Gore version because I got a deal. It was I think for a year, it's $11 a month or something. And I'm like, it's totally worth it because once we did that first Zoom, I'm like, this is so much easier. And the audio quality is incredible for what it is.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. And it's in a small file. And when I first saw the file, I thought there was a mistake. When we did our first Zoom recordings, I was like, this can't be the entire recording. Oh, my God, we've lost half of it. And it's so good at compression.
It really is.
Game-changing.
Yeah, and I think from that point, we never looked back. Every interview has been on Zoom, and I think it makes a big difference. I mean, of course, that means Tim and I have to be a little more coiffed than normal when we go do these interviews, but it's mostly just I mean, literally, we just it's like any Zoom, as long as your top half is okay, I guess. You're good.
Anyway, I can't wait until we can get Olivia and Julie together at a horror con. I think that's going to be the over the top. I think they would have so much fun if we could just make New Jersey Horror Con one year. That would be awesome. All right, guys. So we will see you back here next week. Don't get involved in any cults unless it's the cult of Civil Gore.
Yes, that one is that we don't make any demands. We just want to be your friends. That's all. So, but peace and blessings be with you, and blessings and peace be with you. And you, I don't know. I can't do it as well as they do in the movie, but you'll see.
Blessed be the fruit.
Yes.